They say blood is thicker than water. For so long, I believed that. I clung to it like a life raft in a storm, even as the storm was being brewed by the very people I was supposed to trust most. But what happens when that blood starts to feel less like a bond and more like a tourniquet, slowly cutting off your life force? What happens when the people who are supposed to lift you up are actually dragging you down? Today, I want to share a story that's deeply personal, incredibly vulnerable, and honestly, still a little raw. It's the story of how I chose myself, how I found freedom, and how I learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from what you thought was forever. This isn't about blame, it's about healing. For years, my life felt like a constant performance. I was always trying to anticipate the next emotional landmine, always trying to say the right thing, do the right thing, be the right person. It was exhausting. I walked on eggshells so often, I probably could have started a small omelet business. Every family gathering felt like an audition. Every phone call, a potential interrogation. I was constantly trying to please, to smooth things over, to keep the peace. But the peace never lasted. There was always a new criticism, a fresh wave of manipulation, another dramatic outburst. My feelings were dismissed, my boundaries ignored, and my achievements often met with a backhanded compliment or a comparison. I felt unseen, unheard, and utterly drained. My anxiety became a constant companion, a buzzing in my ears that never truly faded. I'd spend days dreading interactions, then weeks recovering from them. It was a cycle of hope and disappointment, a slow erosion of my self-worth. I was losing myself in the effort to maintain relationships that were actively harming me. I knew, deep down, that something had to give. I was approaching a breaking point, and I could feel it in my bones. The breaking point wasn't a single dramatic explosion, though there had been plenty of those. It was quieter, more insidious. It was a slow, dawning realization that hit me like a ton of bricks, but felt like a whisper. I remember it vividly. It was after yet another argument, one that felt identical to countless others. The same accusations, the same gaslighting, the same feeling of being utterly misunderstood and unfairly targeted. I hung up the phone, my hands shaking, tears streaming down my face. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. My eyes were hollow, my shoulders slumped. I was a shadow of who I knew I could be. In that moment, something just clicked. It wasn't anger that fueled it, but a profound, heartbreaking clarity. I realized I had spent years sacrificing my mental health, my peace, my very identity for relationships that were never going to change. I was pouring from an empty cup, trying to fill an endless void. I was carrying so much emotional baggage. I felt like I was constantly dragging a suitcase full of bricks. And for what? For the illusion of family? For the hope that one day things would magically get better? That day, I finally understood. I was done. I was utterly, completely, irrevocably done. The weight of it all was simply unbearable. Making the decision to step away was terrifying. It felt like tearing a limb off, like severing a part of my own history. The guilt was immense, a heavy cloak that threatened to suffocate me. Every what if and but their family echoed in my mind. I questioned everything. Was I being selfish? Was I overreacting? Was I making a mistake I'd regret forever? The societal pressure, the ingrained belief that family is everything, made it incredibly difficult to even consider. But then I remembered the person in the mirror, the one who was fading away. I remembered the constant anxiety, the sleepless nights, the feeling of dread. I realized that prioritizing my mental health, my peace, and my future wasn't selfish. It was an act of self-preservation. It was choosing life. The immediate aftermath was a strange mix of relief and profound sadness. There was an initial quiet, a void where the chaos used to be. It felt unsettling, like the world had suddenly gone silent. I grieved not just the relationships, but the idea of what they could have been. There were days filled with doubt, moments where the guilt would creep back in, whispering that I had made the wrong choice. I questioned my strength, my resolve, but with each passing day, a new feeling began to emerge, subtle at first, then stronger. It was peace. The healing process wasn't linear, and it certainly wasn't easy. It was messy, full of ups and downs, and a lot of self-discovery. But slowly, surely, things began to shift. The constant buzzing of anxiety started to quiet. The self-doubt, once a roaring monster, began to fade into a manageable whisper. I started to rediscover who I was outside of those toxic dynamics. I found hobbies I loved, connected with friends who truly saw and valued me, and began to build a life that felt authentic and joyful. It was like shedding a heavy skin and finally being able to breathe. I learned to set boundaries, not just with others, but with myself. I learned to say no without guilt, to prioritize my own needs without feeling selfish. I learned that my peace was non-negotiable, and that I deserved relationships built on mutual respect and genuine love. The freedom I found was exhilarating. It wasn't just the absence of toxicity, it was the presence of something new and beautiful. It was the freedom to be myself, to make mistakes, to grow, to thrive, without constant judgment or manipulation. It was the freedom to finally find peace. My life isn't perfect now, but it's mine. It's filled with genuine connections, quiet moments of joy, and a profound sense of calm that I never thought possible. I learned that sometimes the bravest act of love is loving yourself enough to walk away. If any part of my story resonates with you, please know this: you are not alone. So many of us carry the burden of toxic family dynamics, feeling trapped by obligation and guilt. It's okay to choose yourself. It's okay to prioritize your well-being. Your peace matters. Your mental health matters. You deserve a life filled with love, respect, and genuine connection. If you're struggling, please reach out for support. Talk to a trusted friend, a therapist, or a support group. Share your stories in the comments below if you feel safe doing so. Let's create a space where we can support each other, where we can remind each other that choosing health is always the right decision. Remember, you deserve a life filled with love, respect, and peace.